personal page.
Oh, my personal page. I don't know. Beginning of this month, I was struggling, I guess. Everything, time zones, going live.
I feel you.
It happens getting back into after holidays, and us as bookkeepers just kind of get thrown into it's the end of the year.
It's that time.
No,
I wonder if we should do a survey in the moms, who is has never done bookkeeping, who's familiar with bookkeeping, but has never done bookkeeping, things like that level of experience. I'm just curious. And I think that it would give a lot of information about how to help people or, things like that.
Like do a poll.
Do a poll.
I can create one. Okay. Unless you want to create one, Eileen. If you want to create one.
I shouldn't have opened my mouth.
I can do it. I think today we're just talking. I know Ashley's joined us. Some people are probably joining live. We're gonna have a couple of coaches join us. Chelsea's joined us. I think the focus is just on I guess boundaries around our bookkeeping business, or anything is game today, especially going into year end. I'll let a couple of people see if more people join real quick. So
I think it'll be good to people to get to know the other coaches for when they're wanting one-on-ones and things like that.
absolutely. So they're going to start joining us once a month. And Ashley says it's perfect timing. She has a boundaries question. If she can unmute when she can get unmuted, her hands are busy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, wireless headphones for the win for any Mamacita business owner. Okay, so I'm just gonna dive in. Also, Sherry, thank you for my recommendation on Alignable, because it put me to most recommended in my area.
Cool.
That was exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was exciting to get that and be able to feel like I had a little bit of like established authority in my area. So that was cool. The boundaries question was, I am also, I'm walking away, but I'm still talking. But okay, I am in a BNI group, and I am having such a hard time drawing the line between, can I ask a few questions, and now you need to pay me for my time. I'm finding myself wanting to just constantly answer all of these questions that people ask, tax related. I'm a controller. My full-time job is a controller, so I have a lot of authority in the construction business here, but I get a lot of, hey, can I just ask a few questions, just, real quick, or I'm giving all this value away and I'm having a hard time transitioning over to, now I need to be paid for my time. If that makes sense, just wanting to help and then feeling like this help is now turning into me passively doing your taxes. So that's kind of where I'm at. It started with the BNI member who did purchase a QuickBooks setup thing, and it was only like $250 because it was super simple. And I finished it months ago. And every meeting he'll say, oh, I need to ask you a few questions. And it's like, you already did. You did purchase something, and now I'm struggling with answering the questions to maintain that relationship, or being like, hey, I am so glad I could help. See, I can't even put into words because I don't even know what to say about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And then Chelsea, you're in BNI, and BNI, I feel like it's tricky because
I know with the BNI, it's like you want to build that relationship because you want them to refer out to you. And
Right.
I mean, I guess I've never had someone take advantage of it. Like I give tips and answer questions and stuff, and I just kind of consider that as building the relationship, building their trust to know I know what I'm talking about, sort of thing.
Right.
I've never had anyone take advantage of that. They either sign on with me or haven't talked to me much about it.
Do they throw the questions in when you do one-on-ones, or is it just they'll reach out to you randomly?
Usually just at meetings and one-on-ones. They don't really text me randomly. I mean, I also get the questions of our group is very split between older people and the younger generation. So I get questions of I'm also the social media coordinator. So everyone thinks I can do everything tech. I'm like, I cannot. So I
Yeah.
get those questions too.
It's a hard line I'm trying to draw. And I did have a really productive one-on-one with Abby about how to set up my calendar to help with managing this time and saying, hey, here's the days you can schedule, because I don't want to keep responding to emails with questions, and I don't want to keep feeling like I'm having to answer these phone calls from people that just want free advice. I'm just having a hard time transitioning and wording that boundary.
Always given the link.
so
Ashley, is it just that one person who's monopolizing your time, or is it multiple people?
It started with, he's the big one, and he did send a referral for the same service, but it was not someone I wanted to work with. It started with him, and it's grown into people in his network now. Hey, Darren said that you are super knowledgeable about XYZ. I had a few quick questions.
Oh,
It's
So one thing that
snowball.
I've done in the past, Ashley, and this may be something that you can do, especially in the very beginning of my business, when people would ask for like free advice, because there would be a few people that like I would get on a call with, and I'm like, okay, they're definitely not ready for a bookkeeper. But I would give them some advice. So in return, like, hey, can you leave me a review on whatever, like whether it's Facebook, Google, something like that. Or if you know anybody that's looking. So like I never got paid per se from them, but they definitely sent clients my way.
And his extended network, I would like send them a calendar link, maybe for like a paid time sort of thing. Like when you set up, if they try to just email, it's like, oh, well, this is more like of a call. Here's my link, and have like a way you can set up for them to pay through.
Okay,
Like
that's
like we
helpful.
have for our
Yeah.
one-on-one sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
Honeybook actually just created something like that in their scheduler, which is what I am using now, where you can add a fee to it.
Yeah, so maybe have
I'm
like a
trying to do it
special
without
link
feeling
for that.
icky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually forget, and I just say, oh yeah, that's a question for our strategy session. And I send them the link, and I forgot that I had set it up as paid, and I've had people pay. Like, and it's a call.
Yeah, use
I'm
something like
actually-
that's a great strategy session.
Yeah.
Here's my link to book a strategy session.
So
And I think if the BNI member keeps doing that, be like, maybe we need to discuss about me helping you, since you said you had only done like a setup. Maybe we need to have a discussion about like me helping you more than just with the setup. You seem to have a lot of questions, sort of thing. A follow up.
Okay.
Another
Yeah.
idea, if they're not, if especially with BNI, if they're not questions directly related to his business, but like brainstorming how to do this better type questions, I would get him to go live with you on Facebook to have the conversation for his audience to hear you helping him.
Or when's your next presentation? Use that, his questions as the topics for your presentation sort of thing to educate the whole group about it. So they don't come to you again.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And it sounds so, sometimes it sounds so silly to be like, oh, I have to keep helping. But then it's gotten to the point where, as you guys were just saying, it's tax season. And like, I'm just trying to like hang in there and be a sane person. So free advice is not a thing for me right now.
I definitely start with getting like a strategies paid session link for those extended people he's sent it out to. Like with him in the group, it's kind of towing the line between building that relationship but if he's asking a lot, then that's maybe a conversation to maybe he needs to hand over his bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely the start of it. It's like, oh, this would be great for a strategy session. Here's my link for that.
Okay.
What kind of business does he have, Ashley?
Roofing.
Roofing?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's not the
Yeah.
kind of business where people are going to approach him and ask for free advice, really, like how do I fix,
No.
how do I replace my own roof? So he's not
Right.
getting that kind of
His stuff
experience.
shouldn't be too complicated unless he makes it complicated. I always say that to some industries. I'm like, your stuff shouldn't be too complicated unless you're making it complicated.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. But you know, he just has a lot of questions that seem like they're more for his CPA.
I've answered
But-
that like that's a CPA question before.
And that's kind of how I'm leaning, because I'm not his CPA, and it feels like he's wanting a hand holder for it, to take advantage of the relationship in a BNI. He's also the vice president, and so and he's so kind. Every week he just showers me with compliments, which is so nice, but also it's like it comes with strings. So I'm leaning more towards I did say right now I don't, because he called a couple days in a row, and I responded in an email and I said, this is not a really great time to have available office hours just throughout my day, but if you want to get on a call, and I sent him my link and he scheduled right away, but this was not a paid link. So I think that's a start. And then after that, say, hey, just because these sound like CPA questions, I don't want to give you any conflicting advice that they might.
Yeah,
be
I've definitely
hearing.
done that. Be like, that's a CPA question, not a me question.
Yeah.
I definitely use that line.
Yeah, that's helpful. But thank you. That answers and helps with some options.
Good.
So we had some lovely ladies join us during that question. We have Chelsea on. I don't know if any other coaches are joining us this morning, but she's here helping answer questions about boundaries surrounding year-end, 1099s, but also we're talking cleanups, whatever it is for your business. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them today, and we'll see if we can brainstorm a good boundary for you or give you some ideas to work through that. I also want to mention, while we're talking about year-end stuff, that Kristen, one of our coaches, is going to do a year-end webinar on the 25th. Obviously, if you're in the group, you get that's already included. The pre-sale is already in your trainings, so you'll see the Zoom link and everything there. If you want to just hop onto that call and checklist everything, we're going to hold your hand as much as possible. through year end and getting the financials to the tax preparer is the goal. In what we can do for an hour. So as much as we can give you in that time. If you want that, there is a link in the group, and we'll post another post today on it. So if you want that, and I can also drop it into the chat if you want to go ahead and sign up for that. Anyway, back to boundary questions. I feel like I just did like an ad, but I wanted you guys to know that Kristen is
Important to know. Kristen's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a boundary question for Chelsea, because it's what I find is a lot of the people building their business, they have a hard time setting boundaries at home. And especially now that it's tax season, any tips for that? You know, building your business and taking care of everything, especially working from
Kind
home.
of like setting your time. A good thing to do is schedule yourself. I know Abby's great at this. Like, you schedule everything. Like, you schedule time with your kids. I know that sounds awful, but if you schedule, like, that's when you're focusing on your kids, you're not focusing on business, sort of thing. I know I personally, like, I try between 5:30, I'm done for the day. Like, I get off my computer, I go make dinner, and I don't get back on. I don't tend to work on weekends usually. Saying that, I am working this weekend. It's tax season, so I've had to bend things. But that's a big thing with my boundaries, is kind of having like set times to work and not coming back to it when I'm not supposed to be doing, like, yeah, I'll answer stuff on my phone, but I also leave, like, if I see a text message or email from a client, I'll leave it unread so that I don't forget to respond until I know, so like when I would normally be working and normally be sending things off. So that's a big thing with my boundaries, is having that set time to work. Usually nights and weekends I don't work, unless the reason I have to work this weekend is because I have a 5-year cleanup I'm working on. So I need to get some of that stuff. That reminds me, I need to message him. I was supposed to meet him yesterday to pick up statements from him. Well,
Anyone
had
else
to-
have problems setting boundaries at home? No. I know that
And
I put a little whiteboard on my door, because you know, if I'm on the phone, that's one thing, but when I'm off the phone doing work, my wife is like, oh, I just want to ask you something. And it's very disruptive to me. I don't know, I'm just a very focused person.
I
It's a brain
can't do
dump
that. I got
whiteboard.
3-year-old.
Oh.
He comes, I mean, since I've been on here, he gave me Play-Doh ice cream.
Something you need.
that I'm gonna be disrupted. So
No, the whiteboard is probably for older.
yeah, it doesn't work for a 3-year-old. He's gonna come in when he wants. Let's see. Okay, Andrea said this might be considered a CPA boundary. My question is, what should my response be when reaching out to a local CPAs, introducing myself and saying how I would appreciate any business they can send my way? What if the CPA responds, sure, but I would need XX amount for each referral I send you? I've not done this yet, but I would like to have some answers or numbers to be ready with. Does anyone pay, give CPA some kind of compensation for referrals if this does not pertain to today's focus? I haven't done that. Well, I've done a profit share with not a CPA, but with someone else before. But I know there's people who have done this, that like referral fees or some kind of percentage of sort of thing. I just personally haven't done it, but I know people have.
Yeah. I made cards that said refer a business for CPAs, and I put 15% on there. I've had no one take me up on it yet, but I haven't also handed enough of them out to. I just did that at the beginning of the month. So
Say I had a profit first guy that sent me a few, and we made this agreement where I can't remember if it's like 20% he gets for like a year, sort of thing of that. But yeah, that's totally not heard of. I don't know if I've heard of them saying they need this much amount, but it might be that they have this kind of relationship with other people, so they just want the same as what they have with other people.
yeah.
So I have a CPA. Sorry, I just washed my hair if you can't tell this morning, but so I refer people to him. And he also does my taxes, and we don't do any referral fees, but he gives me a really good price on my taxes, so like almost 50% off. So that works for me. So you know, I have thought about approaching other CPAs. I just don't know the same thing if referral fees will work. But that's a relationship I have with a CPA that works.
I have a CPA, we just refer back and forth. We don't do any kind of fee, but she's in a BNI. She's not in my BNI chapter, but she's another BNI chapter in the metro area. So she gets referrals in our BNI that counts good for her numbers.
Okay. Yeah, obviously it's something new for me to do. So I didn't want to be like a deer in headlights and maybe offer them too much. Like it would be a one-time number, right? I'm not giving them a monthly cut of like my work.
Yeah. I would definitely prefer like a one-time referral fee sort of thing.
Okay.
My thing with my profit first guy that I did the profit share is because he was going to continue like sending me lots of clients. That hasn't happened, but so it was a different kind of relationship. But if I were to do something like that, I would prefer like a one-time kind of referral fee. And I know I have clients that different industries that will send like referral fee, thank you, like $75 or something, depending on what it is. I want to say I have an editor, and she does that. Sends like referral fees to people.
Okay. Because like that's a perfect relationship for Amy. I mean, I'm not going to have them do my taxes, so I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Every relationship's a little different, but it's definitely not unheard of. So it's not a runaway sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a red flag. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a red flag.
Okay.
Becky says, I have a lot of people asking me if I can help them learn how to use QBO lately. I'm not sure how to handle these requests. I don't necessarily want to turn them away, but I'm not sure I'm going to be a good place currently to help them either. Megan, you might be you've done a lot of like QBO training turn client, right? I don't like to do QBO training unless you're a bookkeeper, I've learned.
Yeah, every time that I've done them in the past, Becky, it's been that they've ended up turning into a client, because I'll start trying to show them how to do everything and they're like, okay, this is too much. It's not something I want to do. Now I'll hop on and kind of do like live with them. In the beginning, what I did was like I would charge $300. That's going to be for me to set up their QuickBooks, make sure everything is good to go, and then like do a quick training in their QuickBooks, a Zoom, and I would just record myself like, this is how you code, this is how you reconcile, and do stuff like that. And then if they had any questions outside of that, I would just charge them my hourly rate and could answer questions and stuff.
So you were on a call with them. You screen recorded yourself in their QuickBooks file to show them how
Yeah.
things. Okay, but you did kind of customize it to them because you were using their own file.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I've had 3 people lately. One is I've got to talk to her, but she works for a lawyer, and I'm not even clear as to whether they have a bookkeeper or if she tries to do the bookkeeping, but they use desktop, and she thinks that QBO has a lot more functionality, and she feels like they're in the dark ages in desktop, and she wants payroll to be integrated, which I don't know that I would necessarily recommend them to use QuickBooks payroll, but people do. But she's like, we would like you to get us converted over, and can you come in and train me on how to use QuickBooks? And I'm like, I'm not coming in anywhere, first of all. And second, like, if I don't know, I've got to have a conversation with her. But then I have we have a big Mennonite community here, and they are very, very frugal. But I have this woman that keeps pestering me about, my husband wants you to teach him how to do QuickBooks ourselves. We don't want to pay someone. Like, I could try to help you. I'm going to need to figure out how that's going to work. So what you said might work for that one. And then
Yeah, definitely just set your boundaries. Because I mean, I've had a few that reach out and kind of same thing. I want you to come in and train me. Well, I don't want to do that. So it's just like, okay, that's the end of that conversation. But just set those boundaries from the beginning for sure. Like, I work virtually. This is how I want to do it. If this is how I handle trainings, like, just let them know, if you want to do it, this is what we can do. If not, sorry.
You know that when you record the video and send it to them, that they're probably going to have a whole bunch of questions, right? So how do you, like, how did, I know you said you billed them your hourly rate, but you had the live conversation to answer their questions, and then after the fact sent them a bill for the time that you spent with them? Is that how you handled it? Or
No, I would just charge them an hour up front. Like, you're going to pay an hour. If it takes 30 minutes, then you'll have like 30 minutes later. You can use it as you need it. If not, if we go over, then you bill them for the additional time needed.
okay.
And I actually do charge more for training than my actual hourly rate. So that's kind of helped some too. I usually charge at least 150 an hour to do like the trainings.
Really? Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I mean, I've had a few, sometimes if they've already have QuickBooks and stuff, I've had a few where like I'll open it up and I'm like, okay, you really need a cleanup job. I can't until, like, if you're wanting it done correctly for your taxes, I can do the cleanup and then train you moving forward, or I can kind of do a training based on what I can here. But I mean, we all know that with cleanups, there's stuff that you can't necessarily train because you have to play with it to try to figure it out. And usually it'll turn into a cleanup job. Okay, train me. And then it's like, okay, now I just want to do monthly services. So it's also could be a good opportunity to be able to get in their books and give them a quote for a cleanup as well.
I'm kind of hoping, that's why I don't want to turn them away, but
yeah. So everybody that I've done trainings on have turned into clients. So.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I've done trainings like how to read your reports with current clients, like that sort of trainings. I just tried to teach someone how to do property management bookkeeping, and they didn't understand even what basic vendors were. So, like, why do we have to have our vendors in? I'm like, because you paid them. So that was a fun training. I'm sure
Yeah,
most of them are like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they think it's going to be way easier. And then whenever you start getting in there, it's like, wait a minute, this wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And then I hope we answered whatever question you were going to type in, moms. I don't know exactly when you typed that, what we were talking about. Amy, do you think it's worth joining the Chamber of Commerce? I think if you put your time into it also, like I joined the Chamber of Commerce in the city I used to live in, but then I found out like their meetings were the same time as preschool pickup. And so I couldn't ever go to it. So it didn't really pay off much for me. I think I might have gotten one client out of it because my name did get put in like a registry or something. But I think if you put time into it and like go to their meetings and grand openings of businesses and stuff like that, it can be. So it just
Okay.
kind of depends your city.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think it also kind of depends on the price and stuff like that. I would try to check out maybe their website. Do they have other bookkeepers or CPAs that are doing bookkeeping, stuff like that?
Yes.
Because like I know ours, I joined and I think it was 300 for the whole year. So it's cheaper than doing BNI, and there's way more meetings that you could, and like ours, they have the meetings, they have the ribbon cuttings, but then they also have like family bowling night. They do like all these different things at local businesses. So you have like all those opportunities as well. So I mean, and honestly, $300 for the whole year, one client more than
Right.
pays for that, you know. So
Right. That's a good point. Okay. Thank you. I just looked at the website today. I don't even know how much it is, but I just wanted to see if you guys had experience with that.
Definitely looking to see if there's other people, because I think that was one reason I joined in my other city is they didn't have a bookkeeper and there was only like one CPA sort of thing. So I
Okay.
probably should look into it here in Parkville now.
Yeah,
There's
Okay.
not a
definitely.
lot of CPAs in our area. Me and someone else was talking about that the other day. So
Mhm. Okay. Good to know.
or our CPAs are just old and about to retire. There's that aspect too. We had Bonnie's here now.
Yeah, she just joined.
Let's say we had a few people join.
Quasi here.
Quasi here. Bonnie's been very busy the last few days.
Oh, yeah. I did want to chime in on the training. I hate doing trainings as well. So I price them for what the equivalent of 2 months of bookkeeping is. Because I want to try to either make it really worth my while or, incentivize them to just go ahead and sign up for services. Because I think that they think that that's like the cheap way out, like paying for a training. So I tend to not get many trainings because of how I price it, but yeah, it's a pain. To me, it's so disruptive to the workflow of everything else that you're trying to manage, to stop and do this and learn their business and then teach them. And then they're like asking their follow-up questions that it's, I'd rather spend that time
Just
getting
doing
1 or
this.
2 monthly clients, to sign on.
Yeah, I agree, especially for me not having done it before. That's what I was afraid of, that I was gonna spend way too much time
I
trying.
definitely, if you haven't done it before, I definitely would do it in an industry you know well for the first time, sort of thing. I wouldn't try to do an industry that you're still kind of learning yourself. Like if that makes sense.
I'm not sure. The Mennonite, I think they sell puppies. I'm pretty sure they're a puppy mill, so I really shouldn't work with them anyways, just because of the morals of it. But so I don't know. What was the other one? Oh, the lawyer. Yeah, that could be kind of complicated.
That's the one I was thinking, the lawyer, like because they have, the trust accounts that have to be accounted for and all that. So knowing the industry
is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get her on the phone and try to see what exactly it is that she does in QuickBooks and what she needs help with. And then maybe I can just convince, I don't want to take her job, obviously, but if bookkeeping isn't her job, maybe I could convince them just to be a client instead. So,
Yeah, having that conversation about what they really want is always important. Yeah.
Do you know how big this law firm is? Like, is it one attorney or?
I believe it's just one attorney. I think it's a one attorney office. Yeah.
Do you know if it's like a personal injury attorney or other field?
That's a good question. I do not know. Is it, I don't know a lot about lawyers, but like, can they just be kind of general? Like, I think he does kind of a lot of different things because it's just in a very small town. So people go to him for various different things.
They're usually family law.
Okay.
And if it's a one person, this person you're talking to may not be a bookkeeper. They just.
I don't think she is. I think she's more of like an admin person. But if she says that she goes in there and pulls reports, and I think she said maybe like writes checks, but like then who does the rest of the bookkeeping work? I'm not clear on that. And if the admin is talking to me about changing softwares, if they do have someone doing the bookkeeping, then what about their opinion on everything? So I just need to have more of a conversation with her. But
Definitely.
you know, trying to get a lawyer as a client is a little bit intimidating. I think it's doable, right?
Oh yeah.
Learn.
There's coaches that know lawyer bookkeeping. I don't have a lawyer, but I know there are coaches that know it.
My first one was a lawyer, and it
Yeah.
can be very difficult if they don't work with you. And if they're doing a lot, they have to transfer from the trust account to the general account, then they have money put in. So it's kind of difficult to have one. But
Okay, this is kind of a probably a dumb question, but do all lawyers work with trust accounts? And do all lawyers require like the triple reconciliations and all of that stuff?
I think it depends where they practice, what kind of stuff they practice.
the type
Like,
of lawyer they
yeah,
are.
the type of lawyer they are, where the, like what state they're in, sort of thing.
But they have to account for the different money coming in, and then they have to pay their clients.
And they have to do like a triple reconciliation, right?
Mhm. Yeah, for those trust accounts, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not dumb questions because I've been wondering the same thing because I had a couple lawyers say to me, oh, if you can like niche in lawyer bookkeeping, they always need somebody. But I'm a little intimidated by it too because I know it's different and I don't know how or how to quote or, you know, that sort of thing. So I
Yeah,
appreciate those questions.
having a specialty in those kind of like lawyer, like my specialty is real estate, things that industries that have, you know, those unique bookkeeping things can always be helpful. I mean, I have people sign on with me because I know real estate bookkeeping. That doesn't mean you have to turn away other people. I'd always tell them I'll help almost anyone other than certain industries. Like I don't do cannabis because I don't have that training. So sort of thing. But having a specialty is always helpful because then you are the expert in that field.
Mhm.
But it always takes getting that first client to become the expert of that field.
Yeah, and with law, there's so many specialties. Because I was in medical legal consulting for so long. And everyone's different. There's plaintiff's attorneys, and they get paid differently than personal injury or defendant.
Or estate planning.
If they're in litigation, estate planning, family law. So everyone's very, very unique. Very unique.
And each lawyer has their own style. So you have to know that style.
Each lawyer, every business owner does.
Well, that's true.
You always gotta learn the business and their owner. Always a learning curve with every new client.
Yeah.
Always a learning curve.
I mean, there's some attorneys that they'll just do bankruptcy. And to me, that's a very simple transactional thing because they take cash in and then they do the work and that's it. You know, they're not going to then keep that client on to do other kinds of law work, legal work, because they'll farm that out. They'll refer that out.
Eileen, what kind did you say? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I looked him up. I think this is the one that the person that contacted me works for. It says he specializes in real estate and title insurance, probate, wills and trusts, incorporation, and personal injury.
And personal injury. Wow, that's a little of everything. That's a state and personal injury. I mean, he may have had a couple of personal injury cases, so that's a little litigation. That could be a little bit more complicated.
Of course, I always get the complicated stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, unless you really dig into what he's doing.
So complicated enough to run the other direction, or
It just depends on how hard you want to work.
they pay me,
It's,
I'll work.
it's time consuming. It can be. Once you get into it and you get the rhythm of it, I think you'll be okay. But I would charge because I undercharged for the one I had, and he came back and told me, "You're charging me too. You're not charging me enough." And I did. I charged him again, and he was fine with it. So don't be afraid to charge your fee because it is work.
Yeah. With plaintiffs' attorneys, they tend to, it's a lot of risk for them to take cases. It really is. And a lot of plaintiffs' attorneys are not taking on contingency anymore because they lost a lot of money. So they're putting out money at a risk. They don't know if they're going to recoup that money or not. So a lot of them will work on retainer, and depending on the complexity of the case, whether it's going to take a lot of expert witnesses, that money has to be paid out to just a lot of other costs that they have to incur before there's a settlement. Most times there's a settlement, and then they get paid. And hopefully the settlement is in their favor, or very few cases go to trial usually, but they have to do all that preparation to go to trial, and most cases settle before it actually goes to trial. But they have to keep money, obviously, because they're gonna have to pay out for all these costs that they're incurring before, and then they get paid. They're probably the last to get paid, and then the actual plaintiff in the case will actually get their money from a settlement last. I don't know if all that makes sense.
I think
It does. Yeah, it does to me because that's what I had to. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we have any other questions about setting boundaries around?
Shannon, I also just answered your quoting question in the group. Let me know if you have more questions around that, or if you want to talk about it more here too.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, you're gonna hear my kids in the background. So look, so
I was on this phone call for those that didn't see the post that I did. I was on the phone for like 45 minutes with this lady, thinking that I was just going to become her bookkeeper kind of thing. And then she kind of did a 180 on me and was like, I don't really need a bookkeeper. I want you to teach me how to do it. And then maybe use you as a back burner or like somebody that I can reach out to when I have questions. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do here. And I wasn't sure how to quote accordingly to that, just because I don't want to get taken advantage of and I don't want to overprice her. So that was my main question, I guess.
So, do you remember that those discovery calls, if you're doing them and that's your first like evaluation of them, you're evaluating them just as much as they're evaluating you. Are they a good fit for you? Right. So for context, just remember you can say no to any client you don't want, even if they're willing to pay you the money.
How do you how do you say no to like a potential client though? Because for me, that's like, don't say no to anybody.
I mean, for this situation, a good one would be it's tax season. I don't really have time for training right now. I only have time for new clients. I mean,
if you wanted to say no, right? Like,
yeah, if you wanted to say no,
you don't have to. But then as far as the ad hoc task, hourly rates or your strategy sessions and pricing those, like I love Bonnie's like, I'm going to charge you 2 months worth of bookkeeping. Like, I don't do that, but
I mean, it makes sense. You have
Makes
to get
sense.
in there and look, and you're pretty much showing them how to do a month anyways.
yeah.
Right.
And if they're saving that money, in the long term, it's an investment into their business and they would be willing to pay it if they really want the training. If they're just looking for a cheap way to have you do it, that would turn that off. And so I think Bonnie is doing great there.
So I read the post and I got one sentence in and I was like, red flag, red flag. Nonprofits don't have owners. So right there, I'd be like, yep, we're not a good fit. That's me. These ladies know my background. I'd be like, sorry, nonprofits don't have owners. And the fact that you're saying you own a nonprofit right there is like, bing, 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 bing. Because I know she's already not doing things right. So that's laying the groundwork right there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
You learn something every day
Yep.
from Bonnie's wonderful mind.
I totally
Bonnie's
skipped over the
wonderful
nonprofit.
nonprofit radar.
Yeah.
So if she has like her own, she works for like a franchise. I don't know if that's called in the real estate business, but she works for like EXP or whatever. And then on her, yeah. And then on her personal, so that's her like personal thing. Good job, baby. And then she also has with other people, like other partners, she has this nonprofit. And the only reason I know it's nonprofit was because I kind of stalked her background and was looking at what she's into. And she like kind of mentioned this other business, but it wasn't something that she solely focused on, just because she was like, I don't want to stress you out with this one. I would rather get my personal in order and then see if we can move it on to this other business. And that's when I was just like, okay, well, I can help you with the personal and the like your main real estate business. And then she's like, I want to do it myself. I want to know how to do it myself. I just want you to help me get it set up. And I was just like, ew, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I would charge my same rate. If she wants me to be available to answer questions, help her understand like how she like, because if she asks you a question, you have to go into her books and look at it and you have to figure out what she did, why she did it, how to fix it. So I charge the same amount, whether, and I tell people, I'm like, this is typically done for you, not done with you. And it's going to take me more time to go back, look at what you did, make sense out of it, figure out how to fix it, tell you how to fix it, wait for you to fix it, go back and make sure you fixed it. I said, so it's the same amount because it's not really saving me any amount of work. And I don't know how much you're going to be reaching out to me and questioning things and wanting help. So I would charge the same amount that you would charge for actually doing it.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good questions. You guys are asking a lot of good questions. So with that, I know these calls are short when we have a lot of people on. Chelsea and Bonnie both do one-to-ones in for you guys in moms or the membership group. So we tried to make those as affordable as possible. So if you want to get with them, please do. I'll drop the link in the chat too for them, but these are also great questions for an individual call if you want to tweak something to really fit your specific situation. Because we don't operate cookie cutter businesses. None of our businesses look the same. And we do want to set you up for success and to feel like you can say no if a client's not going to be a good fit for your business or for what you got going on in your life. We want you to enjoy your business. Yeah. Good
It can be a
topic
scary
choice.
thing to say no, but it can be a good thing to say no too.
Yeah. And I just had a one-to-one with someone this morning. She's not on this call. I don't see her. And she said yes to a job, kind of like, and I had a similar experience. So I said yes to a job. And it actually derailed my business. It kept me from growing because it monopolized so much of my time. And in my example, it was literally only 2 hours a week, but it was 2 hours spread out across the 40 hours of a work week. And it just wasn't a good fit. And it took so much mental energy away from me growing my business. So it's okay to say no, and it's okay to discharge a client. I have a hard time letting go of clients.
I've done it a couple times.
Oh, I don't want to give away someone that's, happy to give me money. But sometimes they're not always happy, and sometimes they're problem clients and they're just grumpy. And
I'm going through deciding if I want to get rid of my cleaner currently.
Oh yeah, I saw that conversation.
We trade services, so that puts another
Then you have to
added on to.
Yeah.
So
So
she's just my receipt management person. So it gets, and when she doesn't give you receipts for 8 months, and then you have to do 8 months in a week.
And I think most of us can say that, when you're in the beginning and you just want like the experience, right? You just want to get a couple clients under your belt to start getting the experience. You really compromise boundaries, and you compromise like, what you envision as like your ideal client, just to like, start working with the clients. But as you start gaining more experience, gaining more clients, reevaluating, you'll tend to see how the client cycle advances and progresses. And I mean, I will tell people on calls now, I'm sorry, we're not a good fit. I can see if there's someone else in my like network that would be a good fit for you. And we, some of us are like, hey, is anyone interested in this person? But like, these were the reasons why, like, I didn't feel that they were a good fit. And there are plenty of people in this community that, everyone isn't meant to work with everybody. Like, we all have our own tendencies and personalities, and we don't all work well with other people. So like, there's sometimes that I just flat out say, we are not a good fit. And I don't even offer them like to try to find someone else. Because I'm like, no, you are so awful. Like, you blatantly want to like do the opposite of what the IRS rules are. I am not even going to be associated with like recommending you to someone else. So you will get to that point where you're comfortable telling people like, we're just not a good fit, or I just don't think we're going to be a good fit for you and what your business, and what you want for your business. And that's totally fine. Yeah, like Sherry said, you're as much interviewing them as they are interviewing you. And I think that a lot of people that are looking for this kind of service, they think that they're the ones that are like making the decision, like they have the control over whether or not we get them as a client. It's not that way. It doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, you know, just
a partnership.
Right. Yeah. And like, be true to yourself and be honest with yourself. And if you get any weird feelings when you're talking to somebody, it is totally okay to be like, I just don't know that we're going to work well together. I disengaged with 3 clients last year that said all the right things. And then we started working together. And then it was like red flag, warning, like problem after problem. And finally I was like, you know, this just isn't working. It's not worth it. It's more frustration for both of us than it's worth. So I wish you well. I hope you find someone that is more in line with what you're wanting. And they were very, you know, appreciative of like me acknowledging that, not just like ignoring it, like this is like the weird normal relationship that we should have had kind of thing. So just know you're in control, basically.
Yeah. And also, if you kind of something you said earlier, like breaking boundaries you want, know that even if you're breaking the boundaries now, it doesn't mean you can't enforce those boundaries going forward. Like I had at the beginning, I would answer things whenever, like, and I had a guy thinking, oh, he could call me at 9 o'clock at night, because when I was talking to him on Messenger, when he was just a potential, that was fine. And so you can slowly get them to where they learn, like, you don't answer except for during this time, or just because you break a boundary at one point doesn't mean you can't reinforce those boundaries, if that all made sense.
Yeah, just be very clear what those are, right? Like what your deadlines are, what your expectations are. And if they are ignoring that, I always point people back to the engagement letter whenever they're like unclear on like what the thing is or whatever. And I say, well, make sure you reread your engagement letter and then let me know if you still have questions. And 90% of the time that answers their questions, because my engagement letter has grown and morphed as I've learned over the years, like, you know, the recurring problems with clients. So I have one client that literally, you know, I've been waiting a month for her to answer my questions, and what we were doing all of last year for a cleanup, and she finally answered about 350 of them. It was a pretty substantial cleanup out of 400, and she still had those 50 remaining. And she goes, so when is everything going to be caught up?
Still have to finish
like,
answering your questions. Yep.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't want to get behind. And I'm like, well, we're now dealing with a cleanup, right? Because we've been waiting for your answers. Like, we need that information to make sure that what we're doing going forward is correct. And if we have more questions for you on that, then, you know, it's communication back and forth. And I mean, you were like incommunicado for 4 weeks. So like we schedule the work in accordance with when our clients get us what we need. And, you know, it's the beginning of tax season. I said, so it's going to take a little bit of time, but, you know, please make sure to reread your engagement letter if you're, you know, at all confused, or have questions on kind of how this works. So, that's, you know, your engagement letter is good to have details on what your expectations are, so that you can just refer it back to them and they read it. Well, they should have before they signed it. So.
Yep. Yep.
Did anybody else have questions before we hop off? All right. Well, if y'all need anything, feel free to post in the group and let us know. And we will see y'all next week. Y'all have an awesome weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank y'all.
Mhm.